So, Rob, what's causing homelessness? Why are people not living in their own houses? Why are they sleeping under bridges and on sidewalks?
Multiple reasons. It really comes down to somebody just ended up having a difficult time, and I say it's a slip. Really, it's nobody's goal is to be homeless, and so they made a decision, or a decision was made for them that just created them to go homeless.
So if it's a matter of decisions, that echoes something I talk about with my clients as a business coach, is that there's great power in decisions, and every decision leads to something either great or terrible. So the decisions that these guys are making, and I say guys, I don't mean just men because there are men and women, but when I say guys, I mean it either way. But
Yep.
the guys that are homeless out there, the people that are homeless, what are these decisions? Walk me through how they end up there.
Uh, Prescription drugs. I just wrote a post on prescription drugs, and how prescription drugs, um, they're given to the men, and we only have men in our facility, so we have 135 men, and it's a transitional facility, and so they'll take one pill, and it doesn't really give them the feeling, so they take a second, and all of a sudden they have a slip. Okay, they feel a little too good. It gives them a reaction where they don't feel like they need to go to work. They don't show up at work. They ultimately lose their job. Then they lose their home. And then I've watched so many men, and you know, I've worked with men and women in homelessness, but I've watched so many people that are good people that just made one little mistake, and then it compounded. It's kind of like compounded interest. And so, um, and then I have guys that they are on the lower IQ. They were slow in school, or they were in special ed, and unfortunately, their parents get to a point where these guys become adults, and they say, "Hey, I can't take care of this person anymore." And what do you do? I mean, um, as a parent, unfortunately, some of these parents are turning them out into society, or they get arrested, go to jail, and because they're lower IQ, they can't really communicate well, and so they self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. And once they start getting into that negative spiral, it's hard to get out of it. Even if you get somebody with a 4-year degree or a master's degree, it's hard for them to get out of that downward spiral.
We're talking with Robb Munger today on the root of all success. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. As you can tell, we're talking about homelessness, and the reason we're talking about homelessness today on the show, and how, if you stick with us, we're going to talk about how this relates to the concept of success. So stick with us. But Robb is the CEO and president of Exodus Place, which is an organization dedicated to helping homeless veterans and those at risk of homelessness. And as he said, he's got 130 some odd people, men, who are in his program in the facility that they're serving. So if you've ever wondered about what's going on in homelessness, and specifically veteran homelessness, then today's show is going to give you a little bit of an insight into that. So stick with me. It's a little bit different than what we normally talk about on the show, but I think it's an interesting concept. One of the things, Robb, that I think a lot of us struggle with is the creep of homelessness that's moving into more of the suburban areas. Like, I live in a suburb of Nashville, and so I expect, good or bad, I expect to see homeless people panhandling, standing on the side of the exit ramp, holding up a sign, asking for money. I expect that in Nashville, but it's becoming more and more. It's getting further away from the epicenter of a metropolitan area. But what do we do about this? Because I've gone through these episodes in my life where it's like, okay, I'm going to give these people money. If I have money, I'm going to roll the window down. I'm going to hand it to them. And then I've got other times I go through, it's like, I'm not giving them any money because it's just perpetuating the problem. What should we do?
Giving money is an emotional reaction. Okay, I have that same emotional reaction as giving money. Giving money is easy. People say, "Well, it's my $5 or my $10," but $5 can buy a fifth of cheap vodka. Um, at least it used to. I don't know with inflation now, but that fifth of vodka, they drink it. Typically, the homeless have a high blood sugar count because the rescue missions and the soup kitchens, they're serving high starch, high carb meals, high sugar, and so you put alcohol with that, lack of sleep. The person ends up having a medical emergency, which means the police come. Typically, here in Grand Rapids, the police come, the fire department comes, and the ambulance comes. So your $5 or your $10 that you just gave somebody, there's a high percentage that it's going to cost the community in whole more money. And now, when I give that money, I feel good right away. I mean, it's like, hey, I'm doing my part. The way I've run a nonprofit, but my background's I'm an entrepreneur, uh, for profit. Um, Exodus is non, obviously, but um, I suggest giving the money to an agency or a church or some place that can actually make sure the money gets utilized to help the person get out of homelessness and cure homelessness versus just giving them money. And it's uncomfortable when the person's staring at you and you're in your nice vehicle, um, and they're dirty. It's a hot day. Nashville, it's probably mid upper 80s, 90s, and here you're sitting in your car. I mean, it would be better for you to handle a cold, water, bottle of water or an apple or a banana or something. But money's the easy button. The hard button is actually making that decision to make a better decision to get better traction for that person.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that because of your position running a homeless organization where you're helping and serving homeless. I'm hearing you say, Rob, don't give them money because the money is going to cause more problems. It's going to lead them to do what we all, I think, in the back of our mind, think they're going to do anyways, go buy booze or drugs with it. But I think what you just gave us as a different perspective. Not only are they likely to go buy, booze and drugs with it, is that the consequences of that lead to a big expense on the city because if the police do come out, if an ambulance comes out, a fire truck comes out, that's a big expense to the city. So a $5, $10, $20, $100 gift to a homeless person can end up costing the city literally thousands of dollars. Interesting. So what I'm hearing you say very clearly is don't give them money. You did say, however, give them, you use apple and bananas as fruit as an example, a
Water.
bottle of water. What about coupons to a Subway? I know that's more fast food, but like, is there a way to, should we give them coupons so that they can go in and exchange that for some food?
Well, and you and I think of exchanging it for food. I gave gift cards to a local grocery store. Well, the grocery store sold booze, so they're saying, "Hey, I need food," so I give them a grocery coupon. And this is before I got involved with the homeless. So the homeless now tell me, once I got involved, and they're like, "Oh, we love guys like you because we could just take to the local. We have Myers up here, and we just cash it in, get some booze and some pop and a couple snacks." Or let's say a fast food. Most fast food places, and they're not all unhealthy, but I would say 90% of them are unhealthy. So you give them a gift card to a place, they're going to increase their starches and increase their trans fats. They're going to increase their um, you know it's putting them in the wrong direction. It's not helping them, and people. That's an easy button again, um, is just to give them a gift card, and it can make you feel good, and people get upset because they go, well, it makes me feel good. Well, it makes you feel good, but it's not getting your intent is to help. The result isn't isn't coming out the same way. So we have really good intentions, but the outcomes, don't follow the intentions. And it's hard to explain to somebody, let's say you and I, how we, if I got, a $20 gift card and I need food, I would go buy food for my family, or I'd buy food for me. I'm not going to buy booze. I'm not going to waste it on Monsters. I'm not going to waste it on the energy drinks. I'm actually going to get some food staples. That's what most donors are thinking, that help the homeless. Unfortunately, the homeless mentally, they've been kicked down so far. They're just trying to get that happy feeling. So kind of the happy meal. That's where developing a relationship or doing a little bit extra and thinking through it. I mean, it's hard because the emotional button really gets you when that person's staring at you alongside the road.
So if you had a magic wand and you could wave that magic wand and homelessness is fixed. In other words, this isn't an issue anymore. People aren't on the street corner sleeping under the stoop, of a church building or a downtown city building, and they're not panhandling. They're not sleeping under bridges. All that's wiped away. It's gone. What is the one way that would actually make that happen? If you have to say, look, this is our magic wand, we can make this happen. Is there something that could make it happen?
I'm going to be talking to you tough here, Jason, man. You're asking good questions. It's relationship. Okay. And it's difficult relationships because like the homeless, why we're so successful at Exodus Place, our recidivism rates at roughly 1%. We blow the national average out of the water. And it's because we will dive in and have a relationship with the person. We develop a relationship. We know where they're at, what they're thinking, their troubles, and we work through the tough stuff. And if everybody really in the United States, I mean, we don't even have enough homeless people to have everybody work with one homeless person. The numbers are roughly, the numbers move quite a bit, but let's say 300,000 to 500,000. And, we're pushing to 300 million people in the United States. So it's a very small percentage, but if we just had 10% of each city just said, hey, we're going to actually get involved with one homeless person and walk with that person, have a relationship with them, and then come around them and start coaching them, not telling them what to do because, nobody wants, they're adults, they're not children, but start coming around them and saying, hey, what can I help you to move forward in life? What do you need? And we do this constantly at Exodus Place. And you do coaching. Really, you're coaching people, and it's very, very similar. The people I'm dealing with, unfortunately, they've lost their safety net. So we're bringing them from zero or negative zero. Negative zero would be dead, but we're bringing them nearly from zero to hero to get them out of homelessness. So that relationship's a critical place to be.
So how do we do that though? How do we, as a normal American living here in our world, whether we're a W-2 employee, stay-at-home mom, whether we're an executive, whether we're an entrepreneur, how do we do that? So if we don't want to give them money or gift cards, because that is perpetuating a problem that is a stereotype, but is based in reality. If we're perpetuating a problem by giving them money or giving them gift cards, you're saying that the magic wand is relationships. And if we could develop relationships with these homeless people, we can help rescue them from this downward spiral. But how do we do that? Like, that seems like, I guess what I'm saying, Rob, is I don't disagree with what you're saying. It makes perfect sense, but practically it makes no sense. How do we do that?
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
I finally got it. It's the brand new Relay credit card. So check it out. I'm gonna do a little unboxing for you so you can check this out. So here we go. Nice little case, kind of like the American Express. You know, they're not playing. They're doing it right. Oh, look at this. There's a quote right inside. It says, "Success is having to worry about every damn thing in the world except money." Johnny Cash. That's pretty good. I've not heard that one. Oh, this is nice. A little thing on the back, up to 1.5% cash back, no annual fees or interest, 30-day billing cycle. And there it is. It's the Relay credit card. It's a Visa. So I'm not going to show you my number, but there it is. Look at that. Boom. Go check out Relay. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/relay, and you could start with one of the best in the world.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Well, and great question there too. Tough one, but it's really triage. Okay, so we'll have guys. I've had a professional football player come through our program. I've had a U of M attorney come through our program. I've had an airline pilot. I've had engineers. Okay, so we have that category where it's a higher level of capacity that, you know, they just need a little help to get that foundation back, and then we can get them on. So we have that level. Then we have a level that, let's say it's drug and alcohol, and so we'll work with them with drugs, alcohol, and drugs, I mean prescription and illegal. So then you have that category. Then you come down a little bit further, and we're dealing with some people with mental illness. And we've gotten rid of the mental illness hospitals. There's facilities throughout the country, but they're typically a very short stay, and they need to be a longer stay. And I'm not talking about, you know, removing people's rights forever, but mental illness. You know, I don't have Master of Social Work. I don't have the degrees, but what I have seen is mental illness could be like a virus or a flu. So they just are dealing with something very severe for that particular time. And then you have a longer cases where they actually have some biological things that they're dealing with. And then you got the people that are, they're criminal in nature. And really the jail and prisons are the best place for them. I know that's a radical comment. And then the last thing, one of the saddest things I see at Exodus Place and in our communities, and when I tour other places, is the guys that were born with a very low IQ, and they have a lot of love, they have a lot of compassion, but they're not street smart. And to put them out on the streets, it's very traumatic. And so we really need to stagger and have levels that we can start triaging and putting people in their proper places. Like with the low, the low IQ guys, they really need to have a nice home that they can go to that's supportive, independent living, and not really come to, Exodus. We do take them, but we're not the best fit for them. And so we need to have better structure and getting people the supportive care that they need.
Well, so if we're looking at the question that all of us have, should I give the homeless guy money? Your answer to that is no. Next question I've got is about that idea that we're all thinking, is that what organizations, and I'm not looking for you to name them specifically, although feel free to if you need to, but what organizations are actually causing more harm than good in the homeless? And here, I'm going to give you some context of why I'm asking that question. There was a book written many years ago called Toxic Charity. My brother actually works for one of the organizations that guy started. And so I only became aware of that over the last decade or so, but conceptually that rocked my world, because I grew up as a pastor. I was a pastor for 13 years. And, I didn't realize that a lot of what we were doing in our churches was we were toxic in our charity and our giving to the community. And we didn't mean to, But like you said earlier, it's the good intentions lead somewhere that we don't want to go. So what's happening in our major cities, Grand Rapids, the Nashvilles of the world? What's happening in our major cities that's actually perpetuating homelessness, but they're trying to stop it, but they're perpetuating it? And again, I'm not asking for names, but you feel free to do whatever you want to do. But what's happening out there, Rob? Tell us.
Well, there's I won't name the name, but there's a very large, well-known nonprofit that they do the fundraising, and then they say they're going to give the money to nonprofits, and the money's very slim that's coming to nonprofits. So, doing a little bit fact checking, even calling the nonprofit and saying, "Hey, if I give you money, where's it going? Is it 40% going to raise more funds and the CEO's making $1 million+ a year?" At that point, you kind of have to look into that. And all of them have what's called an IRS 990, so you can look at the tax returns, see where the money's going, and I really recommend people do that, because there's nonprofits make a good business of raising money right now, and with the internet and everything else. So I'm telling everybody to do your homework. There are a lot of great nonprofits that are, for the homeless. Um, and I love that book too, because it really describes just handing out a bunch of food. You take all the incentive away from the person that's having trouble, to actually go get a job or to start fending for themselves. And then, biblically, they become a sluggard. I mean, and they go, well, that poor guy, he can't even lift his hands to feed himself. And I've heard that in our organizations. And it's like, no, tell them, they need to work, they need to do something. But we need to do this together, just constantly serving and making the homeless person a victim, because this victim mentality we have in this nation, whether it's the homeless or in other sects, is a cancer. And so when we're working with, for a donor, if you're looking around Nashville and stuff, I would be looking for the nonprofit that is actually, you're seeing they're engaged and they're asking the people to work with them to come up with a solution. And that's where I give my money.
We had so I run a mastermind called the Exeter Club, and it's all entrepreneurs and business owners. And last year we did something we had not done before, and it was at Christmas time, beginning of December. We had a workshop here in Nashville, and rather than doing a workshop all day just learning, we decided, well, we'll find a nonprofit somewhere in Nashville, and we'll go spend a day working together. And I thought that would be good for us and be good for the nonprofit. Rob, my assistant called no less than a dozen nonprofit agencies, not just homeless, but like across the board. And we only found one who said that they could use us on a Saturday. They all just wanted money. And that sounds worse than it was. But they weren't just saying, you want to come help, but just send us a check. That's not what they did. But they would be happy to take money. But we were thinking, hey, there's 15, 20 of us are going to be here, all able-bodied people. I'm sure there's something you need us to do, whether it's cleaning something up, whether it's serving somebody. And we only found one. And they weren't even, it wasn't a homeless ministry. I wonder if this idea of creating nonprofits has gotten a little bit out of hand. And I think that if we go to what you said, the IRS 990 form, that could be a little bit of a peek behind the scenes to know where they're giving their money. I know that Wounded Warrior came under attack several years ago. Again, not a homeless thing necessarily, but where they were spending, what was it, 90 something percent of the take on their staff, and it was and they got called out for it, rightly so, and they lost a lot of money. I don't even know if that project is still around. How do we, though, as the individual dealing with, we see homeless as a problem, you're telling us don't give them money, go work with agencies that are building relationships with these people. How do we figure that out? How do we know how to do that?
Well, like having your assistant call. I mean, that's a great thing. And that the problem too is volunteers are inconsistent in showing up. And so the hard work is consistency. It's kind of like it's like success in work. You have to be consistent, tenacity. Um, if you see this same homeless person at a certain corner, bringing them a water, once a day or once every other day. It's always in your car, and you say, "Hi, my name is Robb Munger. Just want to give this to you, and I'm going to be praying for you." And you don't even have to add, if you don't believe in God, don't add that I'm going to be praying for you. But it's that kind gesture. And then at some point, I've watched this consistently over my career. The person you're helping will eventually say, "Hey, Jason, I got this going on in my life. I'm realizing, hey, this isn't for me. Could you give me some help? And I don't want just money. I want out of this lifestyle." At that point, they've given you permission to really help them. And I'm not encouraging. I mean, if you're, I got daughters and kids. I'm not encouraging my young daughter to put a stranger in their car, but you could also call an agency, a church, and say, "Hey, who can I connect this person up with?" And we get that quite a bit at Exodus Place. I'll get a text or a call and say, "Hey, I've been working with this guy for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and he finally wants help. Can you get him a room there?" And the guy will actually, the person I know will actually bring them to Exodus Place, and that's that relationship again. It's inconvenient. It's totally inconvenient.
Yeah. Let's as we finish up the show today, I want to bring this back to the core concept that this show is built on, which is that of success. And generally, this show is about interviews of entrepreneurs who are and athletes and musicians who've achieved the level of success that is interesting to an audience. Today, we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about the problem of homelessness, whether or not you should give them money, whether or not you should get involved. But I want you to think about a success story that you've seen happen where someone came in who was one of these levels of triage that you mentioned, and you saw them get back to what we would consider normal life. Can you share a story about that?
Yes, I can, and I literally have hundreds. But this individual came into our facility from prison, um, been accused of something. He got sentenced to go to prison. It was supposed to be a short stint. He was in there for a few years, I guess a little less than a few years. Came out, had nothing. Um, Came up to our staff, said, "Hey, what do I need to do?" He says, "I've never been in this situation in my life. What do I need to do to better myself and get reestablished?" And we put him to work in our workforce development program. He worked there for a few years. That's where they can work in lieu of paying for housing. They get a paycheck and then they pay us because they got to get a W-2 to go. It builds on their Social Security, so they have retirement. So we don't just do a barter system. And then the guy ended up coming onto staff, doing very, very well, was still living in our facility. And I said, "Hey, it's time for you to move out." He goes, "But life's really good. I have a vehicle. I have a truck now. All my bills are paid. I have, community." And I said, "Nope, it's time for you to leave." And so he ended up, I helped him because my background's real estate development. So I helped him get a house, and he ended up buying it. And now he has 3 other men from our facility that live with him and rent there. And he's now back. He's employed at Exodus. He took a break from Exodus, and now he's back employed at Exodus. But he's living on his own. He's paying his own bills. And I mean, he's been out of prison for close to 10 years. I mean, so, when people say, "I love to help somebody, but every time I help somebody, they fail, so I'm going to quit." Well, it's hard not quitting on people, but don't quit on people. If you have that, I don't quit on people, they quit on me. So there's times you just got to stick with them and they'll quit. Um, One other, if I have a couple more minutes, I want to share with you my personal success story. Um, you know, I've developed a couple thousand residential lots. I've owned over 100,000 square feet over my life of commercial property. I still own. I have a couple hundred tenants in commercial. But I started Exodus Place in 2009. I had 4 homeless guys. It was the worst economic time in this world. It was the worst for bankruptcy, some of the highest suicides, foreclosures. I started with 4 homeless guys, building that needed about $1 million worth of repairs. All my line of credits were eliminated during that time because the banks were in failure mode. And I went from zero. In fact, when I took over the building, I couldn't buy it because they had nearly $300,000 of back taxes on the building. So I picked a segment that's not cute and cuddly. They're not babies or puppies or widows. I picked a segment that needed the most help in the worst economic time. And I knew if I created a structure and a business plan and just really led like I meant it, and had a relationship with these guys, we would succeed. And so today we're the largest transitional housing facility in the state, non-government. We're not. I don't get a government check. Okay, some of the men get a government check, but we don't have a pipeline to the federal government and the state government. And you talk about going from zero, less than zero, to actually making a positive difference in people's lives. So when somebody's going through a business problem or a personal problem and they're thinking, "Hey, there's no way," yeah, there's a way. I mean, you got to start shoveling, man, and just eventually you'll dig yourself out. And there was a lot of shoveling I had to do.
Well, Rob, thank you for sharing this story today. And I want to encourage everybody to go check out exodusplace.org, exodusplace.org. They also have a channel on YouTube. You can connect with Rob on LinkedIn. You can look him up at Robb Munger. That's ROBBMUNGER. Look him up on LinkedIn, connect with him, and support this. Now, we talked about at the top of the show not giving money to homeless people and for the reasons that we discussed. But the organizations like Rob runs are organizations that do need your money. They do need the support. And the dollars that you give them can be multiplied almost infinitely if applied correctly. So give them money. And they're right now trying to pay off that mortgage so they can continue to serve people and not have a mortgage debt hanging over their heads. So I want to encourage you to go to exodusplace.org, check it out, look up Rob, connect with him, and do what he's talked about. Connect, build relationships. So as you see these homeless people, you see the same person on a regular basis, give them water, tell them your name, ask them their name. And over time, as that relationship builds, they may be the one that says, "Hey, I really want out of this. Can you help me?" And then you can reach out to people like Rob, and we can get these people off the street and into productive society, off of welfare, off of drugs, off of the problems that they had. But Rob, you're a saint. Thank you for what you're doing, man. I'm going to give you the last word. Anything you want to say today before we sign off?
Thank you, Jason. This has been an honor, number one. And I just, like I said, encourage everybody to try to do a little bit of something and to make a difference in somebody's life. And it doesn't have to be a homeless person's, but just make somebody else smile today.
All right. Well, Rob, thank you. And thank you, listener, for tuning in. Please tune in again next time when I talk with somebody else about success, what that means. Today, we talked a little bit different stories about what success is, but I hope that you're achieving whatever level of success that you're trying to achieve. And remember that no matter what trouble you're going through, no matter what trial, tribulation that's happening in your life, as Rob said, there is a way out. You can figure a way out. And like Napoleon Hill said, in every adversity, in every heartache, and every setback, there's this seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. So look for that seed of an equivalent or greater benefit in your life today. I am the Real Jason Duncan. I'll see you next time. And as always, Jesus is King.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the Real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.